I'm Michael. I work for CBRE as an assistant planner. I'm on their graduate scheme, so I've been working there for about 14 months. CBRE is a real estate services advisor. It's an American firm, and I work in the Manchester office, and I've been there since I left the University of Sheffield. The skills that are needed for planning is to be analytical. I think planning is a really rich subject and area because it brings together sociology, it brings together law, and it brings together politics. I think of myself as a project manager, bringing together lots of different areas of the property industry. Architects plan along with public sector planners, and private sector planning consultants are a conduit between those two and also are able to shape both sides. So we guide and influence, but we don't necessarily plan per se. I went to university slightly later than what's usual. I'm 28 now, so I went to university when I was 22. Before that, I worked in a hotel. I was a restaurant supervisor and duty manager of a hotel back in my hometown of Southampton. After my A-levels, I wasn't sure what I wanted to do, so I decided to take some time out and go travelling. When I went travelling first time, I went around Europe. I used to own a motorhome. We named it Eric after my granddad. So we went around Europe for 6 months, travelled around, went to 20 odd countries first time around. Then eventually I decided I wanted to go to university, so I decided to retake a couple of my A-levels. And whilst I did that, I took on a full-time role in the hotel in which I was working at. I don't feel I had too much of an input from my parents throughout my schooling life. When I was 11, my parents divorced. My dad's in the army, or at least he's coming towards the end of his time in the army, so he was away a lot when I was at school. He was in Afghanistan and he was in Iraq, and I was at school age, year 7, year 8, year 9 when those things were going on. So there were periods of time when my dad wasn't around. What did my mum do? So she worked at the school I went to, so she was an administrator, and that's what my mum did. My first set of A-levels were a bit of a disaster. I only actually passed business studies because all I wanted to do at that time was to go abroad and travel. I decided to retake my A-levels so I could get into a good university. And my first one, which I went back to do, was English with the NEC, that's the National Extension College. And I did that around my job. And I also did history, and that was an evening class at a local college. So I did these parallel to working, it was quite a tough couple of years. Having an interest in an area or in a subject, I think, is absolutely vital. It's about having that emotional engagement and emotional connection to a subject. And when I was at university, in my first year, I went to speak to careers advisors, and I told careers advisors what it is that I liked. At the time, I was really very interested in politics, very interested in public policy, very interested in housing and how the way things affect people's psychology and the way they live and how they influence communities. And so I said all of this to a careers advisor. This is in my first year at my undergraduate. And she said to me, sounds like you want to be a town planner. And that was, I think, the first time I'd ever heard that phrase before. I didn't know what town planning was. I didn't know that one could have a profession or a career in it. So after speaking to this careers advisor, I then went away, read about town planning, read about what options may be open to me in that career path, and thought, this is absolutely perfect. This is exactly what I was trying to articulate but couldn't, because I didn't know that job role existed. So yeah, the advice I'd give my younger self is just be yourself. You do what you want to do and just make sure you're happy.